The WWE Universe is in mourning. Wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has passed away at age 71, and the farewell will leave you speechless. WWE pays its final tribute to the Immortal Hulk Hogan following his tragic passing due to cardiac arrest. In this emotional video, we revisit Hogan's iconic legacy, backstage reactions, and the heart-wrenching final goodbye from legends, fans, and the company he helped build. Whether you grew up with Hulkamania or just discovered his larger-than-life legacy, this farewell is something every wrestling fan must witness. The silence was deafening. The lights inside the WWE Performance Center dimmed to a golden hue, flickering faintly off the ring ropes as a single bell echoed through the building once, twice, 10 solemn times. The man they all called the Immortal, the face of professional wrestling for over 4 decades, was gone. Hulk Hogan, real name Terry Gene Bollea, had passed away at the age of 71 due to cardiac arrest. The world watched in disbelief, and the WWE Universe has not been the same since. It wasn't just the loss of a superstar. It was the loss of a cultural icon. For many, Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler. He was a memory, a Saturday morning ritual, the larger-than-life hero in red and yellow who told us to say our prayers, take our vitamins, and believe in ourselves. His death came swiftly and unexpectedly. Though reports say Hogan had struggled with chronic health issues for years, hip surgeries, spinal damage, and decades of accumulated wear from slamming giants and lifting warriors, few believed the final bell would toll this soon. His heart simply gave out. And with it, the childhoods of millions seemed to flicker, if only for a second. Within hours, the internet lit up like WrestleMania pyrotechnics. WWE's official account posted a black-and-white photo of Hogan raising his hand in victory, captioned with just 3 words, "Thank you, Hulk." The post shattered records, becoming one of the most interacted tributes in company history. Triple H, now the chief content officer, released a statement that read, "He was the foundation. Without Hogan, there is no global WWE. There is no WrestleMania. There is no me." Vince McMahon, who has largely remained silent in recent months, was seen arriving at Hogan's Florida residence less than 24 hours later, his face drained of its usual bravado. The outpouring from fans was staggering. From Tokyo to Toronto, arenas around the world dimmed their lights in tribute. Thousands gathered outside Hogan's beach shop in Clearwater, Florida, laying down roses, old VHS tapes, signed action figures, and vintage posters. A makeshift banner hung from the balcony that read, "What you gonna do, now that you're gone?" It was heartbreaking. Inside the locker room, the atmosphere was unlike anything in recent WWE memory. Superstars, young and old, shared stories about their encounters with Hogan. Some had idolized him before even stepping into the business. Others had feuded with him in the ring. But every single one spoke about his aura. Randy Orton described Hogan as the last of the true giants, while Roman Reigns, visibly emotional, admitted, "You grow up watching him. You try to be him. But there will never be another." Becky Lynch posted a photo of her daughter watching an old Hulkamania match with the caption, "Now I get to tell her who made us all believe." Backstage, there was talk of doing something special, something bigger than any tribute WWE had ever done before. And they did. Within 48 hours, WWE announced a special live event, Farewell to the Immortal, a celebration of Hulk Hogan, scheduled for the following Monday Night Raw. The show would be held at Madison Square Garden, where Hogan made so many iconic entrances and feature legends, active superstars, and surprises from the past all gathered to say goodbye. When the night arrived, it felt less like a wrestling show and more like a spiritual gathering. The entire set was changed, no LEDs, no pyro, no sponsorship banners. Just a single spotlight shining down on a pair of worn-out red and yellow boots in the middle of the ring. Michael Cole, voice trembling, opened the show. "Tonight, we don't yell. Tonight, we remember." Video packages played throughout the evening. One showed his early days wrestling in smoky gyms and regional territories. Another focused on his mainstream explosion, WrestleMania 3, the body slam heard round the world when he lifted Andre the Giant. A third featured never-before-seen footage of Hogan behind the curtain, hugging young superstars, joking with ring crew, sitting silently in an empty arena hours before a show. These weren't just highlight reels. They were memories, living, breathing reminders of a man who gave everything to the business and, at times, lost almost everything because of it. His last few years hadn't been easy. The controversies, the surgeries, the lawsuits, they were all there, hidden in plain sight, threatening to overshadow his contributions. But somehow, in these final moments, the narrative shifted. Not to erase the past, but to show the totality of the man. Ric Flair, his longtime friend and occasional rival, appeared via video. Tears streaming, he said, "We fought in every way you could imagine. In the ring. In the ratings. But through it all, I loved that man like a brother. I always will." Then came John Cena. Known for being the face of WWE's modern era, Cena entered to no music, head bowed, and placed a single bandana on the boots in the ring. No words. Just silence. And then he raised his head and saluted. The crowd responded with a thunderous yet somber chant, "Thank you, Hogan." Perhaps the most unexpected moment came from someone Hogan had helped build behind the scenes, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Appearing live, The Rock shared a personal letter Hogan had sent him years ago. In it, Hogan wrote, "You're going to be bigger than me one day. Just remember where we came from. And never stop giving back." The Rock then looked into the camera and said, "Brother, we'll carry it from here." But no one spoke more poignantly than Linda and Brooke Hogan, his ex-wife and daughter. Their relationship had faced public challenges over the years, but on this night, it was clear, love never left. Brooke's voice cracked as she read from her father's old journal, revealing a hidden truth. He wrote this in 1997, she began. "If I die tomorrow, tell the fans I never stopped being grateful. Tell them. I still remember every cheer." By the end of the tribute, even the stoic fans who often booed or critiqued Hogan during later years stood in unified applause. The man was flawed, but he was real. And in that honesty, the WWE Universe found healing. Hogan's casket, draped in a red and yellow flag bearing the phrase "Hulkamania Forever," was paraded one final time through the ramp at Madison Square Garden. A 10-bell salute rang out once more. This time, every person in the building stood, not just out of respect, but out of mourning, reverence, and gratitude. A final "whoa" from a crying Ric Flair echoed backstage. And, just like that, the lights dimmed. But the story didn't end there. Hogan's death sparked something. Not just nostalgia, but reflection on what wrestling means, on what legends leave behind, and on how fleeting even the strongest bodies can be. WWE announced a new charity in Hogan's name, dedicated to supporting retired wrestlers with healthcare, housing, and financial planning. Aptly titled the Immortal Fund, its mission is to prevent future legends from facing their final years in silence or struggle. The response was overwhelming. Fans donated in droves. Superstars pledged a portion of their merch sales. Even rival companies like AEW and NJPW paid tribute, proving that beyond storylines and competition, there's a shared reverence for those who built the foundation. And Hulk Hogan was the cornerstone. At his beachfront home in Clearwater, Hogan's chair remains on the porch, facing the ocean. Still, empty, but not forgotten. Locals say every sunset feels different now, like a spotlight warming the waves one last time. Kids still run past in bandanas, doing the leg drop in the sand. Strangers nod at the door and whisper, "Thank you, brother." Back at WWE headquarters, a mural now stretches across the entrance wall. It's not a picture of Hogan slamming Andre or flexing under the lights. It's him, sitting in the locker room, post-match, towel around his neck, breathing heavily, looking at his hands. Quiet. Human. Immortal. And that's how we say goodbye. To the man who taught us to fight back. To dream big. To rip our shirts off and run wild. The man who made grown men cry and little kids believe in heroes. He may be gone, but Hulkamania? That'll never die, the tributes didn't stop with the WWE Universe. Across the entertainment world, Hulk Hogan's passing sent shockwaves that rippled far beyond the ropes of the squared circle. Actors, athletes, and musicians alike flooded social media with memories, each one revealing just how deeply Hogan had etched himself into pop culture. Sylvester Stallone was among the first to speak. Sharing a photo from their 1982 film Rocky III, where Hogan played Thunder Lips, the ultimate male, Stallone wrote, "You were more than just a co-star, you were a real-life superhero. Rest easy, my brother." That image of Hogan tossing Rocky across the ring became a symbol in itself. It wasn't just a movie role. It was a metaphor. Hogan had a way of taking even the most scripted moments and giving them an edge of unpredictable reality. From the world of MMA, legends like Dana White and Conor McGregor offered public respect. "Hulk Hogan is one of the reasons I got into fighting," McGregor admitted in a heartfelt message. That presence, that power, you felt it even through the screen. There's no replacing that kind of energy. Even Mike Tyson, no stranger to the wrestling ring himself, posted a video tribute, fighting back tears. "We all looked up to him," he said quietly. "He was strong in body and spirit. We lost a warrior." And then came the fans, thousands of them. Writing blog posts, sharing old posters, uploading YouTube tributes set to classic 80s themes. At airports, malls, parks, anywhere people had seen him or met him, mini memorials popped up. One particularly viral clip showed a child in full Hulk Hogan costume standing outside his local wrestling gym, flexing silently in honor of his hero. "He told me I could be strong," the boy whispered to a local reporter. "So I will be." In Clearwater Beach, a candlelight vigil was held on the sand. People came in droves, many of them wearing yellow tank tops and bandanas. Entire families gathered around bonfires, sharing stories of how they met him, how they watched him, how he gave them hope during dark times. One woman spoke of how Hogan visited a children's hospital in 1991 when her brother was undergoing chemotherapy. "He didn't just say hello," she recalled. "He sat by my brother's bed and talked to him for an hour. That was the only day my brother smiled in months." The human side of Hulk Hogan was often overshadowed by the spectacle. But in death, those quieter, humbler moments became loud. They painted a picture of a man who, despite his persona, never forgot the power he had over others and the responsibility that came with it. WWE took the tributes a step further. In an unprecedented move, they renamed the WrestleMania Hall of Fame wing after Hogan. For the first time in company history, a living person section of the Hall of Fame was dedicated to someone who had passed. The Hulk Hogan wing will now house memorabilia, exclusive footage, personal writings, and donated items from Hogan's family, items never seen by the public until now. Among them, his very first pair of wrestling boots, his childhood notebook of wrestling move ideas, and the original red and yellow feather boas worn at WrestleMania 9. Stephanie McMahon took the stage at the Hall of Fame press conference and struggled to get through her statement. "He helped build our brand. But more than that, he built the bridge between us and the world. My father gave him the platform, but Hulk gave the people the passion. We owe him everything." That same week, AEW held a moment of silence during their live Dynamite broadcast. Tony Khan, visibly emotional, addressed the camera directly. "In this business, we compete, we clash, we try to outdo one another. But there are names that transcend all of it. Hulk Hogan is one of those names. Tonight, we honor a man who made all of this possible." Even NJPW, in a touching throwback to Hogan's early matches in Japan, aired a segment of his 1983 Tokyo Dome match and followed it with a tribute in both Japanese and English. Fans in the Tokyo Dome held up signs reading, "Hulk, thank you, Hulk." But perhaps the most moving moment of all came when WWE quietly released a previously unreleased recording, a voice memo Hogan had sent to a young Make-A-Wish child earlier this year. In the message, he said, "Hey there, little dude. I heard you're going through a tough time. But guess what? So did I. You gotta eat right, stay strong, and most of all, you gotta believe. Hulkamania isn't just in the ring, brother. It's in you." That message aired during a pre-taped tribute package on SmackDown, and fans around the world were left in tears. It wasn't just a wrestling icon talking to a child. It was a human being passing the torch in the most personal way possible. In the weeks following his passing, documentaries began surfacing. Networks scrambled to license interviews, rare match footage, and behind-the-scenes clips. ESPN greenlit a two-part 30 for 30 titled Immortal: The Rise and Farewell of Hulk Hogan, while Netflix acquired rights to produce a biopic long rumored to be in development, with Chris Hemsworth still attached to portray Hogan. The film, now greenlit with urgency, will be dedicated in his memory. The power of Hogan's influence wasn't just in what he did, it was in what he allowed others to dream. He gave kids confidence, made misfits feel seen, and taught an entire generation that strength wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual. He embodied larger-than-life ideals, and somehow still managed to connect on a deeply human level. But for WWE, the mourning brought a deeper reckoning. In closed-door meetings, executives and legends alike discussed the toll wrestling has taken on its warriors. Hogan's death, while from natural causes, became a wake-up call. A reminder that many legends leave the business broken, both in body and spirit. In response, WWE announced the expansion of its Legacy Wellness program, with new initiatives focused on mental health, post-career transition support, and long-term healthcare funding. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Cody Rhodes jointly pledged to oversee the program's launch, calling it the Immortal Initiative. The goal? To ensure no wrestler is forgotten once the spotlight fades. At the Performance Center, young recruits now train under a mural that reads, "What you gonna do when life gets tough?" It features Hogan's silhouette not in a flexing pose, but with arms open, reaching toward the crowd. A reminder that even the strongest among us fall. But they also rise. Again and again. His daughter Brooke returned to social media 1 week after the tribute, sharing a simple photo of her father's old boots resting by her door. The caption read, "He walked through every storm so we didn't have to. I love you forever, Dad." Meanwhile, Linda Hogan, quiet in the media for years, made a rare public appearance at a Tampa church service held in his honor. She stood in the pews, holding a framed photo of Hogan as a young man, and quietly whispered "Amen" as the organ played his entrance theme, remixed into a gospel tune that left the congregation in tears. The spiritual undertone of Hogan's farewell surprised many, but those close to him say it was intentional. In recent years, the man behind the mustache had found peace in ways few knew. He'd been reading scripture, volunteering at youth centers, even mentoring troubled teens who had no idea they were talking to one of the most famous faces in the world. He didn't want credit, one friend said. He just wanted to be better. To do better. And in the end, maybe that's what made Hulk Hogan truly immortal. Not the slams. Not the catchphrases. Not the t-shirts or action figures. But the quiet transformation of a man who gave everything to the spotlight and spent his final years giving it back. The WWE Universe will never forget him. And they shouldn't. Because what Hulk Hogan built wasn't just wrestling. He built a connection. One that stretched across countries, crossed generations, and crept into the hearts of people who never stepped foot in a ring. Hulkamania was never just a marketing gimmick. It was a belief system. One of strength, perseverance, and unapologetic belief in the impossible. Now, as fans prepare for WrestleMania 41, the first Mania without Hogan's living presence, WWE has promised to honor him in a way that echoes through time. The main stage will feature a golden tribute ramp called the Immortal Walk. Every superstar will walk it. Every match will begin with a 10-second Hogan countdown. And the final main event? It will end with Hogan's theme, blaring into the night sky, as fireworks explode in red and yellow, his final main event, long after the last firework fizzled out at WrestleMania 41. Long after the cameras stopped rolling and the arena lights faded to black, a strange silence settled over the world of professional wrestling. It wasn't the emptiness of loss. It was something deeper. A collective exhale. As if an entire generation had been holding its breath for decades, waiting for the moment when Hulk Hogan would finally step out of the spotlight for good. And now that he had, people were forced to ask, what happens when a legend dies, but his shadow still stretches across every corner of the business? The answer isn't simple. Because Hulk Hogan was never just a wrestler. He was a symbol of power, of hope, of excess, and, in many ways, of American culture itself. When Hulkamania swept the nation in the 1980s, it wasn't just fans in the crowd cheering. It was the working-class dad who saw in Hogan a blue-collar superhero. It was the kid getting bullied who believed that ripping a t-shirt could change the world. It was the mother who didn't understand wrestling but loved the fact that her son finally smiled when Hogan came on screen. But in 2025, the world is different. The industry is more fragmented, the audience more divided. Some younger fans see Hogan through a different lens, one shaped by controversies, leaked tapes, and public scandals. To them, Hogan wasn't a hero. He was a complicated relic of a bygone era, one that didn't always align with modern values. And yet, even those voices, critical as they were, couldn't deny the gravity of his departure. This divide came to a head online. Forums, podcasts, and Twitter threads lit up in the days following his passing. On one side were the purists, defending Hogan's legacy with zeal, reminding everyone that without him, there would be no WWE Network, no WrestleMania, no billion-dollar empire. On the other side were the critics, pointing out his personal failings, his questionable behavior, and demanding honesty from the industry he helped build. And then there were those in the middle. The ones who grew up idolizing him, who felt betrayed by some of his later actions, but who couldn't help but mourn anyway. Because heroes aren't perfect. And, sometimes, it's in their flaws that we find our greatest truths. Paul Heyman, always a master with words, spoke to this paradox during a special episode of WWE Backstage. Sitting in the center of the ring, Heyman looked directly into the lens and said, "You don't have to forgive everything. But you can still grieve." Because Hogan wasn't just a man. He was a movement. And movements change the world, even when they break your heart. That sentiment echoed in locker rooms across the globe. At AEW, younger stars like Darby Allin and MJF posted tributes, not just to the wrestler, but to the idea of Hogan. The idea that charisma mattered. That moments mattered. That professional wrestling wasn't about moves, it was about magic. In Japan, where wrestling is treated more like sport than spectacle, Hogan's death was met with respectful silence. But in a rare televised moment, NJPW legend Hiroshi Tanahashi wore red and yellow tassels to the ring for his main event, raising his arms to the heavens before locking eyes with the camera. The commentators didn't say a word. They didn't have to. Back in the United States, a shift was already happening. The WWE began restructuring its narrative, slowly distancing itself from the cartoonish superhero era that Hogan once dominated, and instead embracing the hybrid athlete storyteller model ushered in by stars like Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, and Rhea Ripley. But even as the tone changed, the core stayed the same: larger-than-life emotion, triumph over adversity, and the eternal battle between good and evil, because no matter how far the industry evolved, it still stood on the shoulders of one man flexing beneath arena lights, asking kids everywhere, "What ya gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?" In schools and universities, media professors began revisiting Hogan's place in history. Courses in pop culture, masculinity studies, and American myth-making used him as a case study. One professor at UCLA called Hogan the John Wayne of professional wrestling, a flawed icon whose image outgrew the man behind it. Another at NYU labeled him the Elvis of the mat, drawing comparisons between Hogan's rock star persona and the way fans worshipped him long after his peak. The Smithsonian reached out to WWE requesting original Hogan memorabilia for their National Museum of American History. In a press release, they wrote, "Hulk Hogan's influence stretched beyond sport. He was a media phenomenon who helped shape 20th century American identity." But perhaps the most enduring tribute didn't come from a Hall of Fame or academic journal. It came from a small, independent wrestling promotion in Atlanta. The kind Hogan himself would have worked in back in the early 70s. Before the lights. Before the millions. Before the madness. The show, the main event was a simple tribute match. No gimmicks. No flashy entrances. Just two wrestlers, both dressed in red and yellow, locking up in a silent ring. No commentary. No crowd chants. Just pure wrestling. And at the end of the match, they hugged. The younger one knelt and placed a bandana on the mat. The older one whispered something into his ear. Cameras caught the younger man mouthing, "Thank you." That's the real legacy. Not the merchandise sales. Not the championship reigns. But the quiet passing of the torch. The idea that every time a new wrestler steps into that ring, they carry a piece of Hulkamania with them, even if they don't know it, because Hulk Hogan changed wrestling forever. He made it global. He made it theatrical. He made it cool. And he did it by being unapologetically himself, loud, brash, charismatic, and larger than life. He paved the way for The Rock, for Cena, for Roman, for every kid who ever flexed in front of a mirror and believed they were strong enough to win. 2025, the world may have changed. The audience may be savvier. The lines between reality and storyline may have blurred. But when the music hits and the crowd erupts and a wrestler rips their shirt or drops the big leg, you can still feel it. You can still feel him. And maybe that's what immortality truly is. Not living forever, but being remembered. Always. There will come a time when no one left in the ring ever met Hulk Hogan. When his face is just a picture, his voice just a soundbite, his legacy just a line in a history book. But his presence? That will linger. In every promo. In every over-the-top entrance. In every little kid screaming from the front row. That's the gift he gave. The power to believe. To entertain. To endure. WWE has promised that every July 24th, the date of his passing, will now be recognized as Immortal Day. A day to honor not just Hogan, but all legends who helped shape the industry. On that day, no matter the year, the company will host a global livestream tribute. A single bell will ring. And once again, the red and yellow lights will shine, not for the man, but for the myth. For the immortal. For Hulk Hogan. It started with one voice. A teenage girl from Kansas posted a tearful TikTok the morning after Hulk Hogan's funeral tribute aired. She sat on the edge of her bed, surrounded by old WWE posters, clutching an action figure of Hogan in his prime. "I never met him," she said, wiping her eyes. "But somehow, it feels like I just lost someone I knew my whole life." That video went viral in less than 2 hours. By nightfall, it was joined by thousands more, from across the country, across the world, across generations. Grown men in suits recording themselves tearing up during old match replays. Elderly couples recounting how they met at a live show in 1985 where Hogan wrestled in the main event. Children who'd never seen a match live, but wore red and yellow because their parents told them he was the one who started it all. One boy, no older than 8, stood in his driveway in a homemade bandana and said, "I'm strong, because he told me I am." Then he flexed, legs shaking, voice cracking, but smiling like he believed it. Because in that moment, he did. It was a collective outpouring the likes of which WWE had never seen before. A grieving not just for the man, but for what he represented. The end of an era. The departure of a beacon, and quietly, amidst the flood of tributes and the bright lights of memorial events, there was one voice that remained silent longer than any other, Vince McMahon. He wasn't there for the first Raw tribute. He declined interviews. He was seen backstage once, after the Madison Square Garden event, walking alone past the ring, his head down, saying nothing. Those who approached him were met with a gentle nod. Nothing more. It wasn't until weeks later that he finally agreed to speak. A special sit-down, unadvertised, unedited, filmed in the center of the empty WWE headquarters studio. No fanfare. Just Vince, seated in a plain black chair, his face older, wearier, and softer than fans had ever seen. "I met Terry before the world did," he began, voice raspier than usual. "He came to me with this fire in his eyes. Said he wanted to change the game. And damn it, he did. He paused for a moment, then looked off camera. He made me a fortune. But more than that, he made this company real. He made people believe in us. Vince leaned forward slightly, as if burdened by the weight of everything unsaid. We had our battles. My God, we had our wars. But at the end of the day, when it all quieted down, when it was just me and him in the room again, it always came back to one thing: respect. There was no dramatic swell of music, no fading to black. Just Vince, staring directly into the lens, eyes glassy. We'll never have another Hulk Hogan. We'll have bigger stars. We'll have better athletes. But we'll never again have the man who made this a global empire by flexing, pointing, and telling people to dream. And then he stood up, placed a single photo of Hogan in his WrestleMania 3 gear on the table, and walked away. The interview aired unannounced at the end of a SmackDown broadcast. No commentary. No plug. Just silence. It hit fans hard, because for all the public spectacle and company-wide recognition, that simple act, that unpolished moment, spoke volumes. Vince McMahon, the architect of the empire, had just revealed his heart. And it was cracked wide open, but even as the wrestling world